NFTs are fairly new, and this is like the wild, wild west right now. So either people are going to be very successful being early, or they're going to lose a lot of money. And so it's just a matter of like playing what you can afford to lose.
This is the Door Roller Money Podcast. I'm your host, Rob Berger. In this episode, I have the pleasure of talking to Ish Verduzco. He's the author of How Successful People Get Ish Done, and he's the host of Getting Ish Done podcast. He was named one of the Hispanic Executives 30 under 30 for 2021, which I think was just released, and is currently setting a buzz in the NFT community and working on creating an NFT playbook. And trust me, I got a lot of questions for him about NFTs. Ish, thanks for joining us on the show today.
Rob, thanks so much for having me. I'm really looking forward to the conversation and hope your listeners, find some value out of it.
Well, I've got a lot of questions I want to ask you, but I got to first start with the 30 under 30. How did that come about, and what's it like, getting on that pretty elite list of people?
Yeah, I mean, I was honestly kind of blindsided by it. I just got an email one day saying that I was nominated to be a part of Hispanic Executives, like inaugural class. This is the first time they ever do this, 30 under 30. And, at first it was shock, and then I was like, okay, well, I don't want to get my hopes up too high. And then, I got another secondary email, maybe like 2 weeks later, saying that I made it and was part of the class. So it was a mix of emotions, shock, excitement, definitely very proud. And yeah, I think it was a really awesome moment for me and my family and the people who have been supporting me for a really long time.
Absolutely. Well, so for folks that might not know your background, why don't you just share with us a little bit of who you are and what you do, and then we'll, of course, get into NFTs in a bit.
Yeah, this is always a loaded question for me. So I'm born and raised in Los Angeles, Southern California area. My grandparents are from Mexico. So my mom had me when she was 18, 19 years old here in LA. Very young mom. I give her so much props. I don't know how she did it. But growing up, we didn't have like super nice things. We grew up relatively like middle, lower class. But we had roof over our head, great family, and we had, everything we needed to survive and to thrive and to do our best. Growing up, my mom always, showed me the importance of education, upward mobility, and the power of investing in yourself and growing continuously to grow. So I went to college at UC Merced, which is a really small school north of Fresno, south of San Francisco, Sacramento area. Very small school. I think I was like the third or fourth graduating class there. And it's part of the UC systems too. So it kind of felt like the little brother or little sister out of the UCLA, UC Berkeley and all that. Studied management there. Shortly after that, I ended up, finding my way to tech. I tell people I made it through the back door. I snuck into tech through the back door because that route of me getting into tech is very non-traditional. It wasn't like I got a phone call one day from a recruiter and they said, "Hey, we love your background. We'd love to have you." It was me like convincing people to get me on the phone with the right person and driving up to San Francisco overnight and, going through rounds of interviews and eventually landing a gig that helped me break into tech. So I worked at LinkedIn for 5 years. My last role there was a global social media marketing lead for their biggest business, which was Talent Solutions, $2 billion business. After that, I went to go work at Snapchat on their diversity team, like doing diversity brand partnerships. And then after that, I came to work at a startup that's a social media food startup, helping people connect with, other foodies and find things to eat, where to eat, and what to cook. And so I'm currently director of growth and marketing at Crave It. And that's kind of like my professional life. That's kind of like what I do, I guess, your 9 to 5 per se. But aside from that, I'm very involved and I'm very entrepreneurial. So I've written a book, like you mentioned, outlining, steps to help people achieve their goals. I use this framework in everything that I've done, whether it's like land jobs, do crazy things like DJ in Las Vegas without an agent, just doing it on my own, going on a US tour as a DJ, starting companies, and doing things that people just normally would say like, how the hell did you do that? Like you shouldn't be able to do that given the resources or like networks that you have. So that is the book. Also very deep into NFTs as of the past couple of months. So that's kind of taken over my life a little bit. I started two companies. One of them was an entertainment company. Another one is a media company, which this is what I'm kind of doing on the side now. So we can take this conversation in whatever direction you like.
Well,
As yeah,
yeah,
I'm
yeah.
I'm an open book.
You mentioned a framework. Sort of a
Hmm.
framework for achieving things that many folks either don't achieve or would think would be impossible. What can you tell us about that framework? What's worked for you?
Yeah, that's a good question. I mean, the framework is fairly simple. We wouldn't have time to go through like all of it, but I think the very first part of the framework is, and it is the most important part in my opinion. I studied all these successful people, like hundreds of successful people. I not only studied them objectively, I also studied them and the work that they did. Their autobiographies, their documentaries, like their podcasts, their YouTube videos. I studied them like Oprah Winfrey, Tim Ferriss, Mark Cuban, all the people who we look up to as like successful in different industries, tech, writing, entertainment, sports, etc. And I started to see these commonalities, which they ended up being the seven parts of the framework. But the very first one was the toughest one to explain and the toughest one to teach others because it's something that I kept hearing in all these conversations, which was so and so is so successful because they're so self aware. And I would get angry when I heard that because it's like, how do I as a listener become more self aware by you telling me I need to be more self aware, right?
Right.
It's a very confusing concept, and so I just dug into this entire concept itself and try to find not a solution but a better way to explain to other people. Like if a 10-year-old asks me like, how can I be more successful? You studied all these people. I can't say like go be more self-aware, kid. Like you got this. Go get it.
Right.
But like it's not directional. And so what I ended up finding was it's a psychological term called self concepts, and our self concepts are different parts of our identity and different parts of time. So there's our present self, there's our past self, there's our future self, which is also your potential self. And then basically what you do is you objectively look at those different people as different entities. And through that process, you ask a series of questions. At this point in time, who am I? What do I like to do? What is my favorite food? What's my favorite music? Where do I get energy from? What could I do every single day for the rest of my life if I could, if my bills were paid? Questions that we all kind of think about, but we don't like take the time to stop and ask. And you're essentially trying to like treat yourself
Right.
like a science experiment. Do it for your current self. Do it for your 5-year-old self, your 10-year-old self, your 15-year-old self, your 25-year-old self. And then you start to see like themes. Like, oh wow, since I was 5 years old, it looks like I've always been a people person, or I've always liked to talk, or I've always been attracted to marketing and advertising because when I was 8, I used to sell, fruit on the corner of my grandma's house. But then again, when I was 13, I was like slanging Pokemon cards at school. And then when I was 15, I was selling shoes. Like there's a theme here that I'm noticing. And so once you go through that process, you become more self-aware. But it's actual process versus telling somebody like, hey, go become more self-aware, and that's the first step to being successful. And then the next step is, working hard. It's like those things are so generic and not helpful, not useful. But I ended up coming across like self-concepts.
Well, the thing that I've not been able to figure out. So when I listen to your story, as you just told it, I think, okay, you're someone who's going to actually take the time to study 100 or more successful people and try to deconstruct them, right? Most
Hmm.
people don't do that. Most people come home from work and watch TV. That's what they do, right?
Yeah.
They don't sell fruit on the street corner when they're a kid. Most people don't do that. And to me, the question is what why did you do those things? I mean, this is before you had a framework, right? This was before
Hmm.
you had some of the answers you have today. Um, and you may not have an answer to that. I don't know, but I do wonder like what causes some people to want to excel and be curious and ask questions and not be comfortable necessarily, And others are like, yeah, I think I'm going to watch reruns tonight. That's what I'm going to do,
Yeah.
for most of my
I've
free
thought about
time.
this question a lot, and I covered it in the book a little bit, but through going through that process that I just explained to you, I realized that where I get this drive from is from a few different areas. One of it, which is a huge part, is like a sense of gratitude and feeling like I need to do more because people before me sacrificed so much that it would be disrespectful for me to not like live up to my full potential. And I feel like when people talk that kind of language, it's sometimes like pie in the sky, very like cheesy and corny. But like my grandmothers from both sides, my dad's side and my mom's side, literally came here from Mexico with nothing but their kids and the clothes on their back and made a living for themselves and raised 6 to 8 kids each on their own as single mothers, bought their own houses,
Wow.
struggled extremely, like more than, most people, I think, here in the United States. And we're still able to make it, from literally nothing, not even speaking the language, like having to understand and learn English in a place where they're trying to raise kids at the same time. And so like that's my ground zero, right? That's my perspective for almost everything that I do. Whether I'm working in tech or doing these crazy things with crypto and NFT, I always have that like grounding to be like to pull me back and bring me down to where I'm from. And so when I think about like my grandmothers and all the work that they've done, just for me to be able to have an opportunity to go to school, or just for me to have an opportunity to like be able to speak English or do stuff that I want to do in my free time or travel or do volunteer opportunities or speak on podcasts like this. Like my grandmothers probably would love to do this stuff when they were growing up, but they couldn't because they went and got a second grade education, and then we're told that they have to help out and start working to support their families when
Yeah.
they're 8 years old or
Yeah.
whatever, which is insane. So it's just a matter of perspective, I think.
Yeah. Right. Right. Well, let's kind of turn towards, I guess, crypto and NFTs, but maybe to begin with a little more broadly. Uh, what's your sort of approach to investing generally, and how did you learn it? Did you learn it, from family? Did you learn it on your own? How's that developed over
Yeah.
time?
I kind of learned the hard way on my own. Before we got started recording, I kind of mentioned that I'm like the first in my family, my immediate family, to like really learn investing. I have a stepdad who I'm really grateful for. He like was around my entire life, and him and I are going through this really interesting phase where we're learning at the same time, and we're like so many years apart, but we're learning like we were learning like what's 401k, what's investing, what's a Roth, like different types of investing, diversification. There's this crypto thing that's going to be the future. What within crypto, like what is a strategy that we can develop in order to like not have to work one day or to be able to like benefit our future generations. And so it's really interesting for me because working in tech, you're surrounded by these incredible people who most of the time come from very well connected and well resourced backgrounds. A lot of them, like some people would have trust funds, and I didn't even know what the word trust fund meant when I started working in tech. I was like, what does that mean? Like, and it means that somebody that left you a ton of money that that maybe they didn't even know you, or like you just turned 18 and you had a lot of money. It was like unfathomable for me. And so
Right.
I had to learn a lot of this language and a lot of these strategies just by asking a ton of questions, and like honestly the hard way, which is like failing a few times. And then after failing a few times and taking a look in the mirror and saying like, what am I doing wrong and how can I like do better? And then that's when I went down the rabbit hole of just like, intense tunnel vision learning. So I would read like so many books. I probably have read like 40 different money books, money, finance,
Which one's your
everything
favorite that
from
resonated
investing.
most with you?
The best one that I've recommended, I've probably bought 10 copies, is I Will Teach You to Be Rich by Ramit Sethi.
Okay. Yeah.
It's an incredible book because I don't know if you read it, but it's so cohesive. It has a little bit of everything, and he tells the story and he gives strategies and tactics in a way where it doesn't feel like work. He makes it fun.
Yeah.
Like a lot of
I
investment books
remember,
say
I
like
have read it. I
stop by.
remember, I think his first
Yeah,
chapter is
go ahead.
actually on credit card rewards or credit cards, which I found kind of an
I think so.
interesting way to start a book on I will
Yeah,
teach you to be rich. Although I love my credit card rewards, so no complaints there. Um, so
yeah.
do
I
you
mean,
have? I
if the
mean, like
readers
you have a
haven't listened to it, I
401k?
would recommend it. Yeah, yeah. I
Okay,
have a
good.
401k.
So I assume you have a 401k. Does inside of that is it basically index funds, or how do you invest your 401k?
Yeah, 401k. I think of it more of like invest and forget. So it's mostly in index funds, like Fortune 500 index funds. I try to diversify my investment strategy, my investment portfolio, like riskier in some areas that I'm going to be like more hands-on, which is like crypto and NFT, and observe and learn on a everyday basis, and then other things that are kind of on automatic. So like the 401k, or I have other index funds that I just invest to on a monthly basis.
Yeah,
But yeah, it's been a long journey of learning. I feel like I started
yeah.
off knowing absolutely nothing, and now I've gotten a little bit
Don't
of
we all?
education. Yeah,
Yeah, yeah. So let's turn to crypto and NFTs.
cool.
And I have my own opinions about both. Uh,
Yeah,
but I'm curious, maybe to begin with, what does your, as much as you care to share, we don't need like dollar amounts, but like what does your crypto and NFT portfolio look like at the moment?
good question. At the moment, it's different now because NFT portfolio has grown significantly in the past couple of months. When I started off within my within my crypto and NFT portfolio as a whole, like 100% pie, it was probably 60% crypto and then 40% NFTs. And I
Okay.
can kind of walk you through my investment thesis for NFTs as well if you'd like to know.
Yeah, that'd be great. And
Yeah,
maybe for
cool.
for the folks listening, maybe you could tell us what an NFT is, and then yeah, your sort of approach to the space.
Yeah, of course. So the the definition of NFT is non-fungible token, meaning that it can be transferred, but it can't be duplicated. So an example of this that people can kind of relate to is like the deed to your house can be an NFT because somebody can't just make a copy of it and then all of a sudden they have the deed to your house. It belongs to you. Like that deed has your name. It has been recorded that you are the owner. And so NFTs are basically digital collectibles that on a digital ledger have recorded that you are the owner and any other information that's within that non-fungible token. The artwork that we see is just like the face of the NFT. Most of like the importance is behind it. The fact that it's one of 10,000 or one of 500 or any information that it unlocks. So some NFTs, maybe they're an image, maybe they're a video, maybe they're whatever it is, and but they might be able to unlock other things like access to an event, access to listen to music, access to, for example, I'm writing an NFT marketing playbook. My playbook is going to come with a collectible that unlocks access to the playbook itself. So it's being integrated
So
in a lot of
if
different
folks
areas of
buy your
life, and I
book,
think
will they be buying an NFT?
they will. Yeah, it looks like a 3D card, and it like moves around a little bit. Each one has different colors. Each one has a different phrase that's within the NFT community that people say. So like GMI is like gonna make it, and like that's one of the phrases. It's like you're gonna
So
make it if you're like in the NFT community.
okay, but let's break this down. So this is an actual book that you're writing, right?
Correct. Yeah.
So will it take the form when someone is reading your book? Let's put aside the NFT part of it for a moment. Will they
hmm
be reading it as a PDF?
Yeah. PDF. It'll be like
I,
it'll
s-
open up in
I
their
assume it's
browser. Yeah.
okay. And so is the book part of the NFT, or will there be a separate NFT that's sort of sold with the book? Like, what's the relationship between the book and the
The NFT
NFTs that you're creating?
the NFT collectible unlocks access to the book. So
Okay.
like when you purchase it,
And how does
yeah,
it do
it'll be like
that?
a little I mean, just like when you go on Shopify, you like buy something and all of a sudden it's in your account. You can buy digital content on Shopify right now on Gumroad, which is like another platform as well, and they just basically gate access. It's just like when you're reading the New York Times or the LA Times and you get to a gated piece of content and then you pay for it, you unlock that content. Very similar to that.
Yeah.
So it's just a gated piece of
And I would
content.
unlock it. I would unlock it with my private key, I assume. It's
Your wallet,
associated with the
yeah.
public
So
address where the NFT resides.
correct, exactly, yeah.
Okay.
And you can transfer it to
Now,
somebody else, but then you no
that was
longer
going to
have
be my
access
next
to it.
question. That was going to
Yeah,
be my next question. We could transfer this thing, I guess, and other people could read it.
hmm yeah, exactly.
But that's okay, huh? Okay, good. Well, so why? I know the book is about NFTs, so I suppose maybe this that answers the question. But why not just sell a book? Like, what makes the NFT part of it special? Or yeah,
A few different things. Yeah, I felt like writing an NF. So the NFT, the book that I'm writing, I think it's 61 pages of a PDF. So it's not super long, not super short either. It'll probably take people about 2 hours to read. Um, it's an NFT marketing playbook. So I have extensive background in marketing, and over the past couple of months, I've been consulting a lot of NFT projects that have been launching projects, and some of them have seen success, some of them have not seen success. So they've brought me on board to kind of consult on like what can they do better. And through this, I've learned
mm,
so many different things that people are doing wrong. So many things people are doing right. And the reason why I wanted to launch it as an NFT and not just like a PDF that people could buy on Amazon is because I carved out a section in the playbook that says, here's my marketing strategy for this NFT that you purchased. And there's 555 of them in the collection. And hopefully, if my strategy works, the collection will eventually sell out. And, it generated enough buzz for you as a reader to buy it. So like, it's kind of like an inception
mhm,
marketing tactic where it's like, I'm showing you throughout the entire process of while I'm building the NFT and the playbook, then you purchasing, you read it and you're like, wow, this is great information. Oh, snap. He actually showed me the process of how he launched it and convinced me to buy it. So like his marketing strategy must work. So it's kind of like full circle.
right.
That's part of it. The other part that makes it valuable is the fact that it's scarce. So this one usually like can turn people off or like confuse people because digital scarcity is debated a lot right now. But because there's only 555 of these NFTs and playbooks, there will not exist any more after that. Meaning that if 300 people buy and or 250 or whatever people buy and half the supply is now gone, now there's only half of the supply to choose from as a buyer. And so if the remaining people who own them decide, this is a really valuable piece of asset or a really valuable asset, I think it's worth 1 Ethereum now. And if everybody agrees that it's worth 1 Ethereum now, then now the price, the value of that NFT just went up 10x. And so I
Right.
get royalties as a creator on every resale. And this also allows people who bought it to make money or to recoup some of the money that they spent, which you can't really do. Like if you go buy a book at, Barnes and Noble for $25 or whatever, and then you try to resell on Amazon, like maybe you'll make a few bucks, but it's much more difficult to like, do that process, which is versus NFTs makes it a lot faster
So
and easier.
let's talk about the economics of it. So, in order to buy your book and the associated NFT, I'll need Ethereum, right? I'll buy with Ethereum.
Correct. Correct.
Okay. And I assume when I buy, you'll get I mean, there may be some fees associated with the transaction, but short of that, that would be what you would receive, whatever the
Yep.
price is, whatever it's okay. And then if I then resell this
hmm
NFT, let's say for 1 Ethereum, which I don't know what it's trading at today, 4 grand, 4,200, whatever it is, um,
hmm
you'll get you'll get more, right? You'll get a percentage of that sale.
Percentage of the sale. Yeah, exactly. Just crazy.
And so, like, how much would you get? Like, what on a resale? How much does the original creator of the
Uh,
NFT receive?
Up to
How does that
10%.
work?
OpenSea, which is like the main platform, caps it at 10%. So like for individual creators or smaller creators, I'm seeing people take royalty fees of like 7 to 10%. For bigger organizations, companies, brands, they're taking royalties of like 2 to 5% because their collections are huge and they don't need to charge that much. Um, so
Okay.
yeah, I mean, if I
So
took
if I
10%, it would be
resold your
10% off every
NFT,
sale.
right? So if I resold
Yeah.
your NFT for 1 Ethereum, you would get, let's say, 7% of that.
Hmm.
There, obviously, there'd be some transaction fees, and then of course, I would,
Yep.
I guess, I would get the rest. Is that the idea? And so,
Yeah.
you're only
I
going to
think,
sell
yeah, exactly.
550 of them,
555. Yeah.
and so the 555, and so the hope is, when one person's read it and benefited from it, they can then sell it so that someone else can read it and benefit from it, and
Correct.
that can just so right. Um, well, it's fascinating. It's a fascinating. I'm not sure what to even call it. Um, I here I guess
Economy.
as a broader
Yeah.
question. So, do you have NFTs that you've purchased as investments?
Yeah. Yeah. I have a lot.
All right.
Some of
So,
them
a
are
couple
just fun. I
questions
love the
there.
art. Some of them
Maybe
are speculation.
okay. One of the things I struggle with is valuation, right? So I can value
Hmm.
usually I can value an asset that generates a cash flow, like Apple. My valuation may not be all that accurate, but I can at least try. It's hard for me, really impossible for me to value an NFT. I suppose in that sense, though, I could say it's hard for me to value a baseball card or a piece of
Exactly.
art, and yet they clearly have value. Uh, so how do you go about valuing the NFTs that you've invested in?
Yeah. Really quick before we jump into that, I do think that valuations are most of the time flawed. I work at a tech company now. I've worked in tech and I've seen ridiculous evaluations for companies that have never generated a penny, but yet they're valued at $100 million because of the people, the team, the idea, the roadmap, what they promise. And so, like, sometimes I think we need to take a step back and look at like, are all valuations treated equal? You know, can we take them all as
Yeah,
serious
sure.
as we'd like to assume? Um, but all that aside, I think NFTs are fairly new, and this is like the wild, wild west right now. So either people are going to be very successful being early, or they're going to lose a lot of money. And so it's just a matter of like playing what you can afford to lose. And again, none of this is financial advice. So my investment thesis should be taken as lightly or as heavily as you want. But the way I'm valuing NFT projects is three main categories. Funny enough, working at a startup, I've been probably on like 200 investor calls, pitching investors, VCs, on our startup. So I used some of the framework that they're evaluating me and my team and our team on as a company when looking at NFTs and the projects that I invest in. So that it's at least some framework and it's not just like, wow, it looks like a cool monkey. I want to buy that. Hopefully it goes up and it goes up $10,000 or whatever. Like that's not what I'm doing 99% of the time. Sometimes I'll just be like, you know what, I'm just going to see what happens. But most of the time, these are the three categories that I'm looking at. The first is traction, the second is team, and the third is sales. Very simple, right? So I'll break it down for you. The first one, traction. Within the NFT community, these NFTs are essentially projects that are turning into brands. So I want to see what does their social media and marketing and branding look like? Is it positive? Is it bad? I'm a marketing person too, so I know how to like check brand affinity amongst people who are interested in the project, what people are saying, using stuff like Twitter analytics and seeing like how many times people are talking about a certain topic or NFT and stuff like that. So social and marketing and branding is a part of Traction. Also, Discord is a platform that people are using, a community platform that people are using to kind of engage their communities, to engage people who are buying their NFT or interested in buying and being part of the community. And then the other part is like partnerships, influencers, people with influence who have bought this NFT. And the reason why that's important is because For example, Steph Curry, very famous basketball player, bought into Rumble Kongs, which is an NFT, and he kept buying and he just loved them. The brand Rumble Kongs itself, it's like an ape, like a gorilla, but they're developing a like a 3v3 digital game that their Rumble Kongs will be able to play in the metaverse. And so Steph Curry, being a basketball player, loved this, bought into it, and like it doesn't get much better of an influencer or like a partnership than
Right.
having Steph Curry buy your NFT. So like that for me is like check traction, that's good. People are buying, that's good. The team itself, they're great. So team is like people that you can point to that are invested in the success of the project. People that are not just going to take the money once it like peaks and then run off because their names weren't on anything. And then the last part is sales. That's very simple. Number of sales and price movement over time. Dips are okay, but I like to see like consistent sales, even if it's just a few per day, because that shows that there's still interest in new people or people trading within that individual NFT economy. That's kind of like the framework that I use, and then I kind of build on top of that. So I'll stop and see if you have any questions.
Oh, I have a ton of questions. Um, First of all, so this
All
all
ears.
NFTs are purchased with Ethereum. Is it all on the Ethereum blockchain at this point?
No, not all of them. Not all of them. There's a Solana blockchain.
Okay.
There's others as well,
Yeah.
like layer two solutions on top of it that are built on top of Ethereum that are cheaper, like Polygon Matic, which Mark Cuban is a big fan of. Polygon Matic. But yeah, there's multiple. Ethereum is just the most popularly
Okay.
used because it's the safest, but it's also the most expensive.
Yeah. Yeah. I think they're working on that. At least they say they are. Um,
Yeah, layer two.
uh, yeah. And so if someone wants to look at some NFTs, maybe buy some, what
hmm
platforms, where do you go to see what's out there? And I guess related to that, if you buy one, I mean, can you hold your NFTs at, I don't know, Coinbase or Coinbase Wallet, or where do you? I mean, I know you can keep all your private keys, on like a ledger or whatever, but on a cold storage physical device. But are there online platforms where you can keep all of your NFTs?
Yeah, a couple of questions there. So I'll start off with the platforms. OpenSea right now is like the most popularly used platform. It's basically the Amazon for NFTs right now. Everybody uses it. There's a couple of other platforms like Rarible um, that are more in foundation, that are more curated for people who are individual creators and might make just one piece, like one individual piece, and want to put that out and let people bid on it. OpenSea is mainly used right now for, I mean, it has all different types of, people who are selling NFTs, but it's mostly used right now by like the bigger collections, like the Bored Apes that are selling for millions of dollars, the 10,000 collections. There's 10,000 of these, 5,000 of these, 500 of these, etc. The bigger collections. In terms of like wallets, MetaMask is like a Chrome extension. They also have an app. That's like the most commonly used wallet. But what I'm most excited for is Coinbase NFT is going to be coming out anytime, like any day now. So Coinbase has been working on their own NFT platform that should speed up the onboarding process for brand new investors who have little to no experience when it comes to NFTs. And they will be able to store their NFTs on their Coinbase wallet. So it's all within the ecosystem. You can buy Ethereum on Coinbase, buy NFTs, Coinbase NFT, save them on your wallet, view them on a daily basis, kind of track them, trade them, send them to a MetaMask, send them to a friend, sell them on other platforms, etc.
Okay. Well, I'll look forward to that. So I would describe myself as a sort of a value investor. So the whole
hmm
crypto NFT space to me, I think there's probably just as good a chance that it's all going to crumble. Not as a technology, but as an investment. Uh,
hmm
and I guess I can I can say with confidence that so far I've been wrong, right? I mean, people have made well, a lot of people have lost money, but a lot of people have made literally fortunes. Um,
hmm
uh, but is there part of you that thinks it's kind of this whole NFT thing could just that you could end up losing everything you've put into it, or do you
There,
just really don't
me,
think that's well, you or
uh,
investors generally that the vast majority of NFTs could end up basically worthless.
They will. Most NFTs will end up worthless, especially with the volume of NFT projects that are dropping on a daily basis. So many of them are just cash grabs. People just want to like launch a huge project, take zero point zero 0.05 ETH and like sell out 10,000 of them, and then they just cashed out a few $1 million or whatever the amount is, you know? So that's why
Yeah.
I always caution people to have an investment thesis and like do their research and do their homework on the projects that they're buying into, and not just buy it because their friends are buying it, because that's like the definition of a pyramid scheme, you know, buying something because somebody else is buying it.
Right.
And then if you're the last person
Yeah.
holding the bag, then you just lost your money. But I do think that there's going to be 5 to 10% of them, of the projects, that are like doing stuff that companies are doing, but they're doing them better than companies. Meaning like
Yeah.
partnerships, brand partnerships. One project called Robotos just landed a partnership with Time, you know, Time Magazine, Time Studios, and they're going to be developing
Yeah.
a cartoon, like a children's cartoon with them. Like, there's not very many companies that are doing that type of stuff, that type of like global scale. And so those are the projects that I'm like most excited about buying and holding on to for the long run, because we're so early right now that they're just getting started, you know.
Yeah. Well, let me try another question that's sort of baffled me about NFTs. In some ways, with smart contracts more broadly, is that
Yeah.
I hear folks, speak, about what they can do. Like you mentioned, a deed to a house or a marriage certificate as a different example. But these are things that are held by courthouses, right? A local courthouse has the deed to your house, keeps a record of
Hmm.
your marriage certificate or whatever. And folks will say to me, we don't need them. We can put this out on the
Yeah.
blockchain. And I think, okay, but I mean, is that really a problem that everyone is dying to solve? That, we've just been racking our brains for centuries on how to, remove, I guess, the middleman, but someone that controls this data. And will we really be better off if the day comes when instead of having a central database, which is effectively what our local governments have become with this data, we all have it out on the blockchain, and we just hope to God we don't lose our private key.
Yeah.
In which
It
case,
definitely comes with a level of risk.
we've lost access
Yeah,
to
you're
it.
screwed.
I guess the question, and there's no question in there yet. I guess my question is this: what problem, if any, does an NFT actually solve for us?
Um, at the current state, it solves a problem that a lot of creators and artists and musicians have had for years. Let's take musicians for example. If you're a rapper, Rob, and you're signed to a label, that label has so much like nearly all control over everything you do, how much you make, what you can and can't do, when you can and can't release music, because they have the distribution,
Right.
they have the relationships, and they have the access to people. But Rob, if you have 10 million followers on Instagram and Twitter, and you have a huge community of supporters, what's stopping you from making music or videos or, special one-on-one conversations that people can buy into and selling them directly to your community? And now you've created an economy for yourself, and you don't need, the record label who's basically like giving you the golden handcuffs, right? You're making a lot of money, but you got to do whatever they say under their rules, whenever they say, do X amount of shows back to back. We've seen this so many times. Like, I used to be a musician myself. I DJed for 10 years. People like Avicii, who was one of the most famous DJs in the world, died because he was, experiencing so much depression and different things in his life, but was pushed to the edge by his team. And you can watch the documentary on Netflix. He did like, I don't know, something like 500 shows in like 2 years, and just was worked to death because his team wanted to make more and more money. Whereas like all he said in the entire video and the entire documentary was, guys, I just want to make music. I love making music. But obviously you got bills to
Yeah.
pay. So if he would have been able to, make NFTs where it unlocked, a special song that he created, then he wouldn't have had to do shows or do whatever his label, told him to do. So I think right now it's very on the creative side, and we're going to start to see it bleed into like mainstream economies and our everyday life. I will say one more thing that's not NFT related. Um, Decentralized finance is probably going to be the most game changing thing when it comes to smart contracts, at least in the short term. There's going to be gaming and stuff like that that's related to the metaverse, but I think decentralized finance is something that everybody from all different backgrounds was going to be able to relate to because we've all had a really crappy moment or interaction with our bank, right? Like I was telling the story on Twitter a few months ago. I have Chase and I have a Chase Sapphire credit card, and I tried making it was like a $3,000 payment on my card so that I wouldn't get charged interest. And so I made it like the day before it was due. My card was due, and later on that day I tried using my card and it was blocked. And I made it from my Chase account into my Chase credit card, and it was blocked. And I was like, what the hell? Like I have a limit of like $10,000 in this account. I made a payment yesterday, but no big deal. And then next thing you know, I'm on the phone with Chase for 2 hours doing 15 different security questions because they saw unusual activity of me giving them money on my from my account so that I can then use that card, which is essentially my money, to make a payment or to charge it or whatever. And so like that whole interaction just blew my mind because I was like, why is it that we are like giving institutions or organizations our money and then having them giving them the power to tell us how we can spend it, when we can spend it, and what days of the week and what hours of the week we can access it. That just kind of blows my mind. And
So
so
what do
yes,
you
there are
think
risks that come with
if
decentralized finance. Go ahead. No.
yeah. Well, I was going to ask you, and you're right, there are risks with DeFi, but if it proceeds the way you imagine it might, right? What will our, I guess, our money look like? Like, will there be no Chase Sapphire credit card because we'll just pay people directly, so we won't need to
Yeah,
charge
I've
something
done
to a
this.
card? I mean, like, what will the world look like if
I see what you're saying.
decentralized finance really does become, say, the norm?
Well, you'd be your own bank. And I think a lot of people are not going to feel comfortable with that because there's a level of risk that comes with, like you said, losing your keys um, or sending it to the wrong address. You put an A instead of a six or something, and all of a sudden you send $10,000 to the wrong person that you can't really get it back. But I think that there's going to be like layer two solutions or Web two companies that develop solutions that are Web three related to help be the mediator. And so that if something goes wrong, yes, you don't have 100% full control, but there's a customer support number that you can call to kind of help you walk through it. Like Coinbase is a perfect example. You don't really own your keys when you buy Ethereum through Coinbase, but you're an investor and you kind of like doing your thing. You can use that Ethereum however you want. You can buy NFTs, you can trade into Bitcoin, you can do whatever, stake it, earn interest. Um, but then again, at the end of the day, if Coinbase goes down, if somebody just pulls the plug on Coinbase, then you're kind of not able to access that for a little while. So I think there's going to be more and more solutions that help the average day, everyday person who might be a little skeptical, but does want to invest, but wants a certain layer of like blanket security in case shit hits the fan. They can call somebody for support. But then there's going to be people like me who like want to own their own keys and want to be able to send Rob, X amount of Ethereum and saying thank you for this interview, or like not having to go to Chase Bank and doing a money wire for $100 or little fewer amounts. I think another thing too, and this is getting all over the place, but within Latin America and like different countries that are not the United States, people often send money, and it's such a difficult process to send a couple $100 to like Mexico or another country. Whereas like with Bitcoin and Ethereum, you do that in like 10 seconds. I've done it so many times. I'm working with some friends in India on a project for the playbook, actually. My designer for the playbook is in India, and I'm paying him in Ethereum. And like instead of doing a money wire and a transfer and having to answer 50 questions on like why I'm sending money to a different country, I literally just got his address, sent it over, and he had it like that day. Was able to use it, spend it that day. So
Yeah,
there
the
is
thing,
risk though.
and I've heard similar, explanations, and it makes sense in theory. I will say that the volatility of something like Bitcoin or Ethereum, at least at the moment, kind of makes it a little troubling, right? I mean, it's like you get
Yeah.
paid, and you hope you don't get paid at night when you're asleep because by the time you wake up, you could be out 10%. Uh, so maybe I
Yeah.
don't know. I'm
You can
not.
get paid in stable coins though.
Yeah, you can.
You
Although
can
you'd
get paid
have
in
to.
stable
Can you
coins.
can the stable coins? I mean, they get converted back to, well, at least the ones I'm familiar with. I think they get converted back to U.S. dollars. I'm sure they have others in other currencies, right? But like Tether, is it always converted to U.S. dollars?
You can convert it to whatever you want. You can convert it to dollars. You can convert it to
Okay.
Ethereum. You can convert it to Bitcoin. Yeah,
Can you convert it to
that's kind of like a,
euros?
a safer. That's a good question. I don't know. It probably. I've never used Coinbase Europe. I'd imagine that they have different laws, but I'm pretty sure you can.
Yeah, yeah,
Um,
yeah. Well, this is fascinating. So you mentioned you have some crypto. Is it mainly Bitcoin and Ethereum, or do you have other um,
yeah,
currencies?
I would say like 90% of it is Ethereum. I'm really bullish on Ethereum just because I see the usage. I think Bitcoin is going to go up in value forever just because of the scarcity aspect. And there's not even one Bitcoin for every millionaire in the world. So the more and more that this catches fire and the more rich people get FOMO, fear of missing out, um, the more it's going to just drive the price up, which is crazy. Like the economics behind it just blows my mind. But I mean, most of mine is in Ethereum. There's like Matic Polygon, which I mentioned, which is like a layer two solution built on top of Ethereum. That's faster,
Yeah.
quicker, cheaper to use. Mark Cuban is a huge investor in them. And then there's other things too, like investing in the metaverse, metaverse land, platforms that are building in the metaverse. I mean, you're an investor, so like imagine all the different tools that we use: Zoom, Dropbox, Slack, everything. There's companies that build this stuff. There's companies that are building in Web3. So just figuring out like which
Yeah.
ones pique my interest, which ones do I think are going to be around a little bit, and which ones are going to go up, which is pure speculative. But yeah,
Well, in the metaverse, we've got the sandbox, right? We've got
yep,
Decentraland. That's another one, right? If
yep,
you had to
Nana.
pick one that you think would be the winner, which one would you pick today?
It's a rigged question though, because like there's not a winner
Yes,
social
it
media
is.
platform, right? I,
Okay.
I
Well,
use
which one do
Twitter,
you think will
Instagram,
be the
LinkedIn, and
most
Facebook.
successful?
It's gonna probably Sandbox. They have so many crazy partnerships lined up that I cannot see them. I can't see them failing. And I think a lot of
And they're
companies, well, I don't think a lot of companies are buying land in the metaverse. Like Adidas is buying
yeah,
a
yeah,
plot of land in the Sandbox metaverse.
yeah.
It's kind of crazy, but
And I'm trying to remember what token do they use? Do you remember the ticker? Because
Sand,
there's
I think
Mana, but is that Decentraland, I think?
that's Decentraland. Yeah, I think there's a sand, a cash or dollar
Or
sign
just
sand.
Sand. I guess that makes sense.
Yeah,
Which I don't think is available
yeah,
on Coinbase yet. I think you've got to go off of Coinbase to buy Sand.
really. Oh, I think I bought it on Uniswap. Uniswap is like a solution that helps you buy stuff that you can't really get on Coinbase. So kind of like a middleman
Okay.
or middle person. Yeah.
Well, I'll have to check that out. Listen, I want to thank you for your patience and listen and answering all of my questions that I've thrown at you. I've studied this area a fair amount, but certainly not like you have, and that's particularly true in the NFT space. And I still find all of this stuff fascinating. I kind of think one of the tests to crypto and NFTs will be when interest rates go up and the government stops pumping money into the economy, which it's basically been doing
Hmm.
to the tune of trillions of dollars. To me, that'll be the interesting test. Do these assets that don't generate cash flow, and there are plenty of others, like baseball cards and artwork and bricks of gold, right? Um, how will these cryptos and NFTs perform? What will their valuations look like when interest rates go up and the money spigot gets turned off? I don't know when that's going
Yeah.
to happen, but it's going to happen. Um, but I guess time will tell. There's no way to know.
I think like anything else, it'll go through lulls. Like the stock market has never been consistently up, in the
True.
past 100 years. There
Yep.
has been times, even the perfect
Absolutely
example is like
true.
COVID. When that hit, it crashed like entirely. You could have made a lot of money if you bought at the low, but people were so scared. So I think there will inevitably be times where there's news that comes out, whether it's in the United States or around the world, because the thing about crypto is like, and NFTs is And the entire Web3 ecosystem is not just US related. So like it's global. Whereas like the
Hmm.
US stock market, it's mostly affected by things in the United States laws and all that. Whereas like if India says tomorrow that they're no longer allowing crypto, which I think they've been debating for a while, that could affect it for a week or a few weeks or a few days. Maybe like crypto crashes for a little bit, but then eventually like there's many other countries in the world that are adopting it on a daily basis and many other people that eventually just goes back up, you know?
Yeah,
So
yeah.
that's a matter of, for me, like
Well,
zooming
good.
out. Like, is this going to be around in 10 years or is this like correction short term or is this pullback short term?
Yeah, yeah. Well, Ish, thank you so much for your time. For folks that want to follow you and follow your work, where should they go?
Yeah, Twitter's probably the best place. So it's just Ish Verduzco, my first and last name. I share all of my NFT insights, things that I'm learning. I'm right now trying to flip 7 Ethereum into 100 Ethereum, and I'm documenting the entire journey on my Twitter. So yeah, people can check it out there and let me know if you guys have any questions or things that you found helpful from this episode. Thank you so much for having me, Rob. This was awesome.
Well, my pleasure, and I'll be right over to Twitter to follow you so I can track your journey of 70 to 100 Ethereum. I have no idea how you're going to accomplish that, but I wish you well.
Thank
Thanks
you.
again.
Appreciate it.